For this reflection, I'll be viewing technology trends from two different perspectives: a traditional learner and a digital age learner. The first part, I will be looking at technology from a traditional perspective. I'll be discussing what a traditional learner is, what a traditional learner's thoughts on technology in the classroom are, and how technology is changing in the culture. When we think about traditional learners, we most likely view a classroom factory model setting. The teacher is the moderator, person in charge, and regulates the flow of information and knowledge. Typically, a traditional classroom involves students gathering in a physical classroom over a set time with the purpose of gathering knowledge on a specific topic. The curricula and lessons usually come from a textbook, and the standards are taken directly from the state. A traditional learner educator tends to have issues with technology because of the nerves and lack of comfort when it comes to use. Because of this, mobile learning, social networking, personal learning networks, augmented reality, virtual reality, gamification, and big data analytics can be overwhelming. When my school began its push toward all access learning for our students, I definitely felt these nerves. I wasn't new to technology by any means, but was new to using them in a classroom setting. You have to be willing to improve your technology skills. In terms of how a traditional learner educator views mobile learning, social networking, personal learning networks, augmented reality, virtual reality, gamification, and big data analytics, I would say they see the writing on the wall. Mobile learning, social networking, and personal learning networks are some things that are starting to become a norm. You can only fight it for so long before you see that they will help you grow as a learner and educator. The normal classrooms are changing, especially at my school. The teachers and learners definitely see it. A majority of the normal classroom feel is going away. There has definitely been a push for implementing technology into your lessons. Now, augmented reality, virtual reality, gamification, big data and analytics are still new are still relatively new. So I can definitely see how a traditional learner educator would still fight against them. Augmented reality and virtual reality don't have as much content available at the moment, and the cost is rather steep. So it's easy for a traditionalist to say it is far too far off to worry about at the moment. Gamification and big data and analytics, however, are beginning to creep into even the most traditional classroom. Traditionalists can't argue analytics. Being able to see a variety of information about your students or about yourself is a good thing. In terms of gamification, although new, a traditionalist also would have difficulty arguing the engagement of their students, its accessibility to everyone, and its ability to check for understanding. A traditional learner educator can't deny the fact the traditional classroom is changing. Now, this does not mean they have to abandon everything they have done, get rid of what works in a traditional setting. It's all about blending in the new with the old. When I began my growth from a traditional teacher to a more digital age one, I started slow. I dedicated time to reading different articles, searching Twitter for things I may like to implement, see what others were thinking, and talking to my fellow educators on what works best for them. Traditional learners and educators definitely see the writing on the wall. There's a push in schools toward digital learning. You see it in society as well. Even the most traditional person has a smartphone, is asking Alexa or Siri for answers, is starting to see VR in schools and out in society, notices that analytics can begin to be part of a variety of things such as sports, business, etc. It's time for the traditional learner educator to begin to make changes in their thought process. The culture is changing. In order to not be lost, be able to work to the best of your ability, the traditional learner educator must change as well. In the second part, I'll be looking at technology for a digital age perspective. I'll be discussing what a digital age learner is, what a digital learner's thoughts on technology in the classroom are, and how technology is changing the culture. In terms of how a digital age learner educator views mobile learning, social networking, personal learning networks, augmented reality, virtual reality, gamification, and big data analytics, I would say they are doing their best to implement them into their everyday lives. Mobile learning, social networking, personal learning networks, and big data analytics, I would say, are the easiest for a digital age learner to implement. Mobile learning now can take place in so many forms. There are video capturing tools such as YouTube, Flipgrid, and Screencastify that allow teachers and students to record themselves. There are interactive lessons such as Nearpod, Pear Deck, and ClassKick that allow your students to actually interact with the lesson and the teacher to receive instant feedback. There are a variety of games available to students such as Quizlet, Quizlet Live, or Quizzes, Quizlet Live, GameKit, and Blookit that allow for interactive gamification. The analytics from these games are also made available to the teacher instantly. There are different digital formative and summative options as well. The digital age learner educator has so much available to them. It is their job to narrow in on what is best to use in what situation. You aren't losing pedagogy or what's best for students, you're simply broadening your toolbox. AR and VR are still relatively new concepts for education. In the last 2 years, my school has added 2 VR rooms. This allows a total of 24 students to be actively engaged in VR experience. This is definitely something a digital aid learner would be interested in. As we get more comfortable with them, I'm sure learners and educators will find effective use for AR and VR. Right now, we are on the cusp of an educational revolution. The workplace is changing. Because of this, schools need to evolve from the traditional environment to a more digital environment. This change will help prepare students for this evolving job market. The prediction is that the digital age learning culture will begin to take over our schools. This won't happen for everyone overnight, but you can already see it happening in different school districts. Schools are beginning to be one on one with devices. There is more of a focus on digital age learning. Schools are beginning to prioritize collaboration and communication. Innovative digital learning opportunities are being presented to learners, and effective uses of technology are being shown and promoted. As the world tech savvy classroom must provide students with a variety of opportunities, skills that translate to the modern work environment. Technology has seeped into every aspect of our culture. In fact, it is hard to imagine our lives without it. If you question this, simply think about what happens if the power or Wi Fi goes out. Your life shuts down. I don't see this changing at all for our future generations. Technology and digital age learners are here to stay. In part 3, I will have a meeting of the minds. I will be discussing what is creating the gap among age groups in terms of technology, the role of technology in our society, what is important for educators to find balance between the traditional and digital age, and how we can bridge the gap between mindsets. There definitely is a gap amongst age groups and generations related to technology. The current generation in school right now only knows a world with technology, so that is what they expect. For previous generations, this wasn't the case. Older generations can be nervous, uncomfortable when it comes to new technology. If it's something they aren't used to, you need to make sure you take the time to explain it to them. They need to know how to use it, why to use it, and what's the purpose of it. This can help relieve some of the nerves they have. With that said, there will always be people unwilling to make changes. It's sad to say, but those people will likely get passed by. The technology age is here to stay. Everyone needs to do their best to stay open minded. With technology constantly changing, you have to be a lifelong learner to be successful. It is definitely possible to have a meeting of the minds when it comes to the role of technology in society. I know it's an, I know I'm personally of a different generation, and my parents are as well. However, we all know technology has come to affect the way individuals communicate, learn, and think. I, it has seeped into every aspect of our culture. There's no denying this. Technology is a part of our daily lives and determines how people interact on a daily basis. Technology is here to stay. All the different generations know this and need to come to accept it. It is important for educators to understand the mindset of both traditional and digital age learners. The goal is to create a well rounded student. If you are able to successfully blend the best parts of traditional and digital age learning, you can do this. This is what I feel I am working toward in my classroom. I want to keep what I know works from traditional education and meld it with what I have learned works from the digital age learning. As a teacher, I want what is best for my students, so I don't want to lose certain aspects of a traditional classroom. It is important to work in groups and to be able to communicate face to face with another person. It's also important to have a schedule and deadlines. This is something that they will face in the real world. It also is important to work on and develop your soft skills. These are things you get from a traditional classroom setting, and I believe will need to get passed along. It also is important to prepare the students for a digital age. They need to be introduced to and work with a variety of technological applications because this is what they're going to see and be expected to use in the real world. In order to be well rounded, it is a teacher's job to understand the mindset of a traditional and digital age learner. There are a few strategies I recommend when it comes to trying to bridge the gap between mindsets about technology and its impact. First off, it is important to start small. Don't try to take on all that is out there at once because it will be overwhelming. Look on Twitter, social media, talk to a friend, see what is working in others' classrooms. Once you find something of interest, focus on that and work to be efficient at it. Once you are able to do that, start over with something new. Chunking is incredibly important. Do your best to not overwhelm yourself. Don't be afraid to experiment with something new. If you mess up, it's not the end of the world. Get back on the horse and try again. I think people forget it's okay to fail. As long as you use what you learned, uh, either about yourself or about the technology you are using. I know after I fail with something, it just makes me want to come back stronger and learn from my mistakes. It's also helpful to find someone you can work with, uh, you can bounce ideas off of. I found this in my math team. I'm lucky to be part of a team who is willing to be dedicated to trying new things. We have taken to heart the idea of all access learning for our students, so we are willing to try new things for their betterment. Bridging the gap is challenging, but it is definitely rewarding for yourself and your students. Always look to improve and be the best version of yourself. Here are my references.